I'm going to do several tutorials on building and rendering glass in Rhino. So this first one, I'm going to keep the geometry of the shape very simple. I'm just going to use a revolve so we can start to talk about how to create these objects. So let's go into wireframe. I'm going to go into front. I have this all lined up here. So this is this profile that I created using the curve tools. And I think I used like a spline tool. So this we've reviewed before. So you sort of set up, doesn't have to be absolutely accurate when you start out. Right click, and then when you select that, then we can start to move these control points around and create what we want. So again, this takes a little time back and forth. And once you get to the profile you like, then we're all set. So that's how I created this curve. And then I'm going to revolve this. So we do need a center line. So I created the center line here in the center. I started down here at the bottom, but it doesn't really matter that it's the exact same height as the profile. It's just going to be a guide for when we do our revolve. So after I have that set up, I need to offset this. So offset. So these options will come up. Most of these we can leave alone for now. The main one is the distance, which is how thick we're going to make our glass bottle. So let me return. Remember, I'm gonna click on that. So this option will come down here. I'm gonna do, I think I did 90 thousandths. So that's 0.09, my curve, and I can go inside or outside depending on how I put my cursor. So that will be, I'm gonna go in right here. And then now I have that nice edge, which is what I have over here. So let's just undo that. So the next step is, well, I'm going to take the inside curve. I want to make this with a thick bottom. So it's like a blow molded bottle with a lot of glass at the bottom so we can get that effect. So I'm going to build this solid and then difference that from the outside. So I'm going to trim this line down. I'm going to use my trim tool. I'm going to select the line to trim with, enter, and then I'm going to select the part of the line that I want to eliminate, which will be down here. So now that has gone away. So now I have these two lines like this is which is what I have set up over here. So now it's a matter of revolving. So let's do this one at a time. I'll do this in perspective. Just turn that a little. Okay, so we can put in the command or under our surface tools. We have down here at the bottom, we have the revolve tool. So I'm going to select that. So I've already selected my line. So that's ready to go. So now it needs to select the axis. When you do an axis and revolve, you need to select both ends. Got this end, and then we have that end. Just going to pull out a little. Guide comes up, which helps us understand what we're going to do. Just going to put ortho on. I'm snapping every 90 degrees. So I'm going to start right here. And as I come around, it will go and snap into these other orientations. So I'm going to bring it all the way around and click on that. And then right click. So now I have that centerpiece revolved. So if I select that and go under my properties, it is a surface because the top and the bottom have not been closed. So I want to make this a solid so I can put a top and a bottom on it. So I'm going to select this and I'm going to go into my solid tools. And right here we have cap planar hole. So I'm going to select that. Selected space. And that should do it. So now it's a closed poly surface. That means it's solid. So that one's ready to go. And then we'll just do the same thing with the outside. It's another revolve, and then we'll close it. And that's what brings me over to these parts over here. So I have the outside built, and then I have the inside built. So the next step is to, this is a little bit of a judgment call. When you're blow molding glass or plastic, as a designer, we can control the outside of the shape. That is the tool. We can design that and make any shape we want within reason, as long as it's moldable. The inside of a bottle, we have a little less control. what that is created with air. So air is blown inside like a balloon, and it's the air that's pushing the material out to the wall. So we can only control that inner shape to a certain degree. So what we try to do as designers, especially creating renderings, we're imitating what that might look like. I've worked with some designers who try to control that inner shape very definitively, and you really can't. We can only work with the blow molding process. So that'll become more apparent as I do some of these other tutorials. But for this one, I'm just going to estimate this little radius here at the bottom. So it's a curve. That's about what we could create. So the glob of the glass will create that thick bottom. So then we just have to come in here and radius these two shapes independently. Fillet in Rhino. So let me just turn that off. So we go to our commands, go to fillet. Now we go to fillet edge because I'm going to radius just that edge. And we're okay. So let's select the edge. I am going to enter. And now I can select this handle here. So right now you can see this white guideline. It's saying it's at an inch. It's pretty intense. So I'm just going to bring this out just for demonstration purposes. Let's say I do, roughly ½ inch. I'm going to click and then enter. Enter again. So now I have radiused the bottom of that. Curve the bottom of that. That's what I have over here. I did that to the inside and to the outside because we have two separate solids at this point. We have the outside shape and then we have the inside shape. So if I take this inside shape and difference it from the outside, I will have a bottle with a wall. Let's just go into rendered mode for a second. Rendered. So here's my bottle shape. You can't see the inside because I have it opaque. So over here, I have the wall difference from the inside. So now we can start to see what that looks like. But this is in rendered mode. And that's what we're using to do our screen captures for our boxes with our graphics on it, which worked really well for that. It was really easy to do, and we could accomplish our designs. So when we get involved with glass and metals and reflective surfaces and things, that's a little bit more complicated. We do have to go into rendered mode, or actually ray trace is how I'm going to show how to visualize this. So here this object is in rendered mode. It looks clear, we can kind of see it, but it's just not very interesting. So we're going to take that a little step further in this tutorial to see how that works. So let's go back to wireframe. Okay, so here's the object where I had differenced it. So that is the glass bottle. What I do need to do is I'm going to go back over here. I need to take a copy of this inside piece that created the inside of the bottle. We need to move a copy of it over. That's what I have here. This is going to represent the liquid on the inside. So what we need to do is we need to reduce this in size slightly, a very, very small amount. So let's take a look at this from the front view. Actually, I'm going to do it from the top. By doing this, we can take it so it doesn't touch the inside wall of the bottle. If it touches that wall, we're going to get these random artifacts where the two materials are actually touching one another. So in 3D modeling, that's an anomaly. It doesn't really happen. So we need to separate that slightly. And I'm talking very, very slightly. So I'll just demonstrate what I mean by that. So I'm just going to go to 100% scale. And let's do a copy. Yes. So I'm going to snap to the center. And I'm not snapping here. Snapping to the center. I'm going to come over here. And I'm just going to move that in just a little bit. And let's look at that from the front. Oops, this is all crooked. Actually, not bad. Probably a little bit much. So since I did 100% scale, it shifted down. So you can see how it shifted down. So I'm going to move this inside part, which is the part that I had differenced. It's going to move that down. I have ortho on. All right, so that's actually quite a bit, but it's enough to separate that. I probably could have done that a little less. No, that looks pretty good. Okay, so by doing that, I'm going to use this smaller size, and I have that set up over here. So here's the bottle. And I think I actually have the juice in here also. Yeah. So I'm going to demonstrate here is the inside surface that represents the fluid on the inside and the glass that's not reduced in size. So I'll show you what happens when that renders. Over here, I have the bottle and I have the fluid on the inside in that reduced dimension. So there's a little bit of space so it doesn't touch. It renders so much better and we can really see the wall. And then over here, what I did was I took the fluid solid on the inside and then trim the top off so we have like a fill level. And that helps with that. I'm not with that illusion of glass. I'm not doing any closures on this particular one. I'll talk about that in another tutorial. This is just to get the basic concepts of how to do this kind of a glass effect. Okay, so let me just go into perspective mode here. Let's just move this over. So if we go into rendered mode, it doesn't look very exciting. So we have our bottles. Here's the bottle with, I have some fluid in there in a different finish. And then here's this, and here's before I trimmed it. And then over here, I'm going to show what it looks like. Let me just move in just a little. Okay, so instead of going into rendered mode at this point, I'm going to go under our selections here in this window, and we can go down to ray traced. Under ray traced, what it's going to do is it's going to simulate what the rendering is going to look like. And I'm going to control how much of the ray tracing occurred. Ray tracing is when it goes in there and does all the effects for glass and things like that. So that went pretty quick, but I have it down to 10 cycles. Over here, I think when you come in, it might be like 100 cycles, which is going to take time. So I reduced this down to 10. I mean, I've seen some designers use like 50 or something like that. Depends on your machine and how fast. So that was pretty quick. So I'm getting a feeling for what this is going to look like. I set up some environments and lighting and things like that, and I'll show you how I did that. But I want to show you over here, this bottle here that with my cursor over it on the left is before I shrunk the inside fluid down. So I'm getting some strange little overlaps and I'm not seeing the edge of the glass over here. And in fact, there's some random artifacts. So that is not desirable. This one right here in the middle, by shrinking that down a little bit, I get a nice, beautiful, clean wall where I can really see the glass. And that's where the thickness of that comes in. Like sometimes in a beautiful perfume bottle or a spirits bottle, that wall can be really, really thick and it looks quite nice. In a high production bottle that's very quick and a cheaper product, that wall thickness will probably be a lot thinner. But here we get that effect going on. So I'm just going to move this over a little bit. Oh, and then here it is where I trim the top so we can see the glass, the double wall of the glass, and then we have the fluid inside. So when I take this and I move this, it's going to go back to the ray tracing mode. Because I have a couple more options over here that I created for the material. So this should ray trace. So there we go. So on the left, I have the full-size bottle, and I have the purple fluid on the inside as opaque plastic. So the inside part is opaque. So let's say if you had a really thick juice or something that you can't see through, you would use opaque. Plastic is a good one because it has a little bit of reflectivity to it. The one in the center is the same opaque plastic material with the trim top. The one on the right, I made the juice material have its own clarity to it. It's made out of a glass material, so we can start to see through it and see the bottom of the bottle. We can control that clarity by using the materials. So let's talk about materials for a second. I'm going to just go back to rendered. Now you can see the pigment of this one that's plastic. We can kind of see that. Over here, the fluid on the inside, see polysurface, we don't really see it because that's glass. So in rendered mode, without going to a full rendering, we don't see some of these effects until we go into the ray traced mode. So to get these, I went into, let's go up top here into render tools, and then we go into our materials, which is this little paint tube. And I have some of these set up here. So what we need to do is when you get in here, you're not going to have any of the glass effects. So you just right click in the space and you're going to click on import from material library. And if we go into glass, what I've been using is just clear glass, no special effects. A lot of these are tinted and they have different refraction rates and things like that. But if we start with just clear glass and we just say open, I have one already, so it's asking me why I want another. And I'm going to say because I want to show you guys how it's done. So here it is, clear glass comes in and I can affect the clarity and I can affect how it refracts the glass, the IOR, and I can control that and I can control the color. So right now we're going to leave that alone. And for just plain glass, I'm just going to leave that white. No, I'm not going to change the color. So I'm just going to get rid of that one because I already have it set up. Yes, I want to get rid of it. And then all I did was copy it over to create these other effects. So I have this purple with the clear glass. I have the purple in plastic, which I used for the more opaque juice in the center. So here it is, same thing in glass. And all I did, I left everything else the same. And all I did was add a color to it. So if you click on this color bar, it goes into our color picker, and then we can pick whatever color we want. So I added a little purple to this, and I did one that's more of an amber color over here. So with that in mind, so what you have to do is you can select your object and you can go into the materials. And all you have to do is, let's say, right click and it just says assign to object. So by doing that, it'll assign that color to the object and then you're all set. And I did that for the juice on the inside and the clear glass. And that's how I got that. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about rendering this on another layer. Clear bottle. There it is. So this is the exact bottle we have. And I know we can't see the fluid on the inside, but here's the outside bottle with the double wall. And then I have the inside part here. And I have that tinted with a slight kind of a brown color. That was that amber finish they put in that. And I made it clear. That's how come we can't see the color at this point. So again, in this portal here, we can control what the view looks like here. So I'm going to come into ray traced again, just so we can take a look at it. And like I mentioned, I have ray traced down to only 10 cycles, which should go pretty quickly. So we can see the effect. So here it is, not bad, looks pretty good. I haven't done a lot. I have not added any extra lighting. I did a little bit of environmental lighting, which I'm going to talk about. So there's so much that can be done here. I'm going to do a little bit at a time. This will just be a little bit of environmental lighting to talk about some of the reflections and things that we can use with environments. I'm not adding any lighting at this point. So what I'm going to do is if you go to the spherical object over here, way over on the right, where the properties and the layers are down here, we have this rendering tool that comes up. So here is we can set up the frame and the pixels and a whole series of different things. So I'm going to focus on our background, ground plane, and lighting. just to get some of these effects to help with the rendering. So this looks pretty good. It's not bad. Under each one of these, we have some options and we can control those options. So right now I have this on Rhino Studio 8. It's going to demonstrate what it looks like. So that has a background that's this kind of this white background, and there are some lighting things up at the top here. So let's just go into rendered so I don't have to do the ray tracing. So you see I have these in that there are these lights up here. Everything's very fuzzy, so it's sort of just like an environment. And then we have a little bit of a gradated background. So that's what that background looks like for that particular one, which is Studio 8. So I was going to show you another one. This is the environment that we're going to put it in. So if I do the drop-down menu, I have a whole series of other things in here. Let's take a look at, let's say, let's do this window one. So here is an environment that has this whole thing going on. It's got a window, it's got furniture, and a whole bunch of objects in here. Because when you get involved with rendering reflective surfaces and metallics and things like that, it's all about the environment. If you take a metal sphere and you put it in a space where there is no environment at all, everything is just all white, it won't look like anything because there's nothing for it to reflect. So in Rhino, what they've done is they set up a whole series of different environments that we can play with. In my old program, I can bring in environments, but I used to build my own objects. Like when I did Chrome, I would make like some black objects in the environment. You couldn't see them in the rendering, but they would be reflected into the Chrome component. You can do that here. So it's a little bit of playing back and forth. So I'm going to try to keep this as simple as possible just to explain some of these things that we can do here in this program. So that's with that RJR window, and that's for our environment. So I'm going to go back to Rhino 8, which is this. This will work well for this particular environment. Let's see here. It's Studio 8. I'm trying to think of which one I had. Was it Rhino Studio? No, it was Studio 8. Okay, so we'll stay with that for the environment. Now down here we have, okay, I'm going to use, so I'm checking use custom environment for reflections. So down here we're going to have, I have this on Studio, which is this particular rendering that I had just showed you. I'm going to switch that to, actually, let's do that in real time. I'm going to go back to ray traced. So this is the rendering with Studio 8 in our environment. I have it set on Studio, which is this lighting. I was going to switch this to something a little different. So if you take a look at these reflections, we can see those. And actually, let's see if I can turn that. We can also control that, which I think will affect this lighting a little bit differently. So by separating these out, we can control them. Okay, so here we can see the reflections have changed now. We have these two on the one side. I was going to put that back. Kind of liked it to one side. It looked interesting. So the ray tracing takes a moment. So another thing we can do here is where are we? In this environment here with the reflections, I'm going to pick up this one. This one's a little bit more complex. This is the same environment that I used up top. It had the window and all the furniture. But down here, we're not going to see the background because the background is up here where I have Studio 8. But the reflections on this window environment are now in here. So if we look closely, we've got some interesting reflections. And actually, the furniture and the window and all that are in this reflection in here. So we get some more interest going on without doing a lot. It's just about picking some of these environments. And again, I can rotate this and control what that's going to look like. So that's not bad. So it's a little more interesting. I can see these reflections. So that's the start of creating these environments for our reflections and our background to get this to work. Okay, so that'll be it for this tutorial. I'm going to do some more with some more complex geometries and doing glass walls and reflective surfaces.